All right. Shalom, Israel. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahshua Barakatham. My sisters, Yahweh Shamar Iltha Ba'Shem Yahushua. Police Officer Kwamgawan. It's the Ashby case started out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. Been teaching this truth since 1969. And of course, we are not affiliated with any other Hebrew Israelite groups. This is the Pittsburgh class. And today we're going to talk, go over some scripture review. We're going to talk about slavery. All right. So we're going to jump right into it. Okay. So in the first scripture we're going to pull, we're going to go Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. And I'm going to get that for you. Today I'm going to try to use my my sword a little more today, my Bible, just try to get away from using the phone. Phones are definitely a little more updated and everything, but I want to go back to the source, if I may. All right, so let's start here. So the book of Genesis, chapter 15 and verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. All right. So off top, Abram. Abram was a name given to Abraham before he, when he was in, Chaldea, before he got his name Abraham. So Abram. And we know that Abraham is the father, of the Israelites, of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. And of course, Abraham, after Abraham comes Isaac and Jacob, and that's their lineage. Okay, so he says, and he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed, that is Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, Israelites, all right, shall be a stranger. Of course, we know what a stranger is. If you live in, whatever neighborhood you live in, you might have you have people that grew up with you and whatnot, and went to the same schools with you, it's like elementary schools, middle schools, and then all of a sudden you may get, someone moving to the neighborhood from another state. I mean, they're they're going to be an Israelite, but they're a stranger. Okay, so they might be a stranger, in your neighborhood, whatever, right? So, but in this case here, we're talking about the Israelites are going to be strangers in the land, okay? And we're going to find out what that land is. All right, so, and he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Okay, so the land that is not theirs, of course, if you don't know, is Egypt, okay? We ended up getting into the land through Joseph, because, Joseph, had the situation with his brothers where he was sold into Egypt and he was viceroy to Pharaoh. And then later on, he met back up with his brothers. And then before Israel died, he got to come in contact with his son Joseph again. And then eventually the Israelites went into Egypt, because Joseph was a prominent person here. So we got into the land, and at that time, that Pharaoh, he accepted us because of the respect he had for Joseph. But then, like it says in the book of I believe Exodus, it says that, and then there came there rose up a new Pharaoh over Egypt, and he didn't know Joseph. So this was a different you can say president, or different king or Pharaoh, and he didn't have the same respect for Joseph like the previous Pharaoh. All right. So I say all to say that we got in the land and we were in Egypt. Okay, so this is the land that it's talking about. And shall serve them, they shall afflict them 400 years. Okay, now what are we talking about here? We know that Blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians, or the Israelites were in bondage in Egypt, and the pharaohs had us in bondage and had us building their infrastructure, the pyramids and whatnot. And we can pull that scripture before we move forward, so we can like the scripture says, prove all things. So let's get that first. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Let's go to. We'll get back to the Genesis 13, but let's go into this verse here so we can prove these things. Okay. The book of Exodus, chapter 1. These are the names of the children of Israel, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob. Okay. Remember, Joseph was already in Egypt. He was viceroy to Pharaoh. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already. See? And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty. And the land was filled with them. Okay, so we're in Egypt, and we're growing as a people. We're going to, and believe me, you know, heathens don't like that. Heathens don't like us to, prosper and grow and to, become a strong nation. They thrive on that. Okay, now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. Okay, so that's the point I was trying to make. We're in the land, and the previous pharaoh, had respect for Joseph, so we were able to come into the land and be prosperous and whatnot. But then there's a new pharaoh now. Okay, he don't feel the same way. And he said unto his people, understand this. And this is another thing here. Remember, these are the Israelites and they're in Egypt. And this is right here is telling you, right, this is separateness right here. That's why it says, and he said, talking about the king, and he said unto his people. That's telling you the separation from Blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians, from Africans. And once again, in America, they're teaching you that, we're the same people and we're not. So at this time, this pharaoh said, he said to his people, okay, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. We had grew and became a mighty people. So the pharaoh, this Hamite is like, these people are growing in our land. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us. And so get them up out of the land. Okay, now here you go. Now, if you go back to 13, where it says, and he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Serve. You know what it means to serve someone, right? Serve, mean you're a servant. Okay, so you're a servant, some other people, these strangers. We're in their land, but they're going to put us in service. Okay, so now listen to this, all right? All right, and this is the book of Exodus again, Exodus 1 and 11. And this is speaking about the Egyptians. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters. A taskmaster is like what you have in your slavery today, like a supervisor. A lot of people like to call them boss. I don't like calling them heathen or nobody boss. I don't like, to give them that much power to say that they're my boss or, or anything like that. They're supervisors or somebody who's been put in place, in a place they probably don't deserve, but, it is what it is. We're in slavery, so this is their kingdom. All right. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And we know what a burden is. A burden is something that you carry, something that's, it's not light. It's something that's heavy. And it's, it's probably, weary, makes you weary, makes you tired, afflicts you. Okay. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they, speaking of the children of Israel, again, built for Pharaoh. Pharaoh is a Hamite. He's an Egyptian. Okay. Again, there's a separateness right there. We are not Africans. Okay. These people had us in bondage in Egypt. And they, to afflict them, Salakia, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. Okay. So I guess I'm shooting back the time one of the pharaohs, it was one of the Ramses. There's different Ramses, but at that time I guess it was Ramses, or they go by different names as well. But okay, so they had the Israelites building things for the pharaohs. Okay, but the verse 12, Exodus 1 and 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. Okay, rigor. Let me get the correct definition. I have it, somewhat, in my head what it means. But I know it means like harsh. Well, let's, I like, the UPK word top to, just look it up. Okay. So I'll get 1 second. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So harsh, you know what I mean? Like, harsh judgment, like with temper, like, you know what I mean? Um, you know, one of the definitions, the quality of being unyielding or inflexible. Like they ain't trying to hear being strict. Okay. So they made us serve with strictness. You know what I mean? They weren't trying to hear no excuses. They weren't showing you no mercy. They put us to work. Okay. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their, like, here we go right here. Here's the service. Here this is the pyramids right here. All right. And the structures that we were building for them. Verse 14. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field. All of their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. Okay, so we're building their pyramids and their structures and whatnot. They did it. They cracked their whips, man. They weren't showing us any mercy. You know what I mean? They put us to work. It's just like they say today in America. The so-called oppressor, the white man, who's the devil that the Bible speaks of. He don't have no mercy on you either. He's going to put you to work. And in the moment that you come to work late, a minute late, 2 minutes late, he might give you a last. If you're lucky, he'll give you a last warning. And most times he's just going to let you go because he doesn't care about your welfare and about your family, and that you have to raise a family as well too. He has no, there's no exceptions when it comes to the white man. You know what I mean? He's going to punish you, and that's what he's going to do. And back here in the day, during these times, the Egyptians did the same thing to us. They made us serve with rigor. Okay, so we're going to go back to Genesis. We'll go back to Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. We'll read that verse again. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. So that's us, the children of Israel. We are serving the Egyptians, the Hamites, Africans. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. And afterward shall they come out with great substance. Okay, and we know that we served them for so long, and then eventually, the Lord always, will give us a prophet or leader, which was Moses, and we ended up coming out of that land after he judged them and put great plagues on Pharaoh and the Egyptians. And that's heavy too, because here in America, this is what we want to happen here. When you see things like the coronavirus happening and the Delta and things and whatnot, these are plagues. This is the Most High, taking action on your enemies. You understand, Israel? This has to happen. This is in the scriptures. And he judged the Egyptians, the Hamites, and then got his people out of there. And that's what's going to happen here. But you have to keep the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High. That's the thing that's destroyed us in this place, Israel. Like we don't want to keep the law, statutes, and commands. We don't want to do what God says. But when the affliction comes, we want to cry out, and we want to wonder why these things are happening to us. But our God is a just God. He's a God of judgment. You know what I mean? Just like a father, just like a father should be. Your son, your daughter, they're doing the wrong things. They act up. You're going to judge them, and you're going to punish them. And you punish them because you love them, because you don't want to see them keep making the same mistakes repetitively, and which will ultimately be to their downfall. So you got to punish them and to correct them. And that's us, Israel. We're a very, like the scriptures say, we're a very stiff-necked people, and we just don't want to do what the Lord wants us to do. And so we get punished. And as a matter of fact, let me pull that for you. So like I said, scripture always says, prove all things. I don't want you to think this is coming from my own mouth. Okay. All right. The book of Exodus, chapter 32, verse 9. And the Lord said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. All right. Now, I'm pretty sure what stiff neck means, but let's see what the Webster has to say what stiff neck means. Okay, here we go. Haughty, stubborn. Is that not Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians? Is that not who we are? We are a very haughty people, very stubborn people. We continuously return to our own vomit. brothers will have sex with a whore, get burnt by a whore 3 or 4 times, and during the period when you're suffering the effects of it, you're all you can say is, oh, I'll never do this again. I won't sleep with whores anymore. But as soon as you get cured, what do we go do? Go right back on the block, in the club, meet a new whore, have sex with her, get burned again. This is what we do. This is something that we struggle with, and we are stiff-necked people. So that is talking about us. Okay, so like I said, and from the top, I'll read that one more time. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 13 to 14. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And again, the seed of Abraham is blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians, okay? We were strangers in Egypt, in the land of the Hamites, okay? And shall serve them, they shall afflict them 400 years. They afflicted us. They put us in, slavery service, for a long time. And also that nation, talking about the Hamites, whom they shall serve, who we serve, will I judge. And he did judge them. He judged them with great plagues. Remember, he had, Moses speaking to Pharaoh and bringing these plagues and whatnot. And afterward, they shall come out with great substance. And we did. We came out, we spoiled them, and we came out of the land, and, eventually, went into the wilderness and got into our land. And we did spoil them. And to bring that up, and to, so you can see, like I said, again, prove all things. It says we come out with great substance. Watch this. Salakia. Okay. Here we go. The book of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 36. And the Lord gave the people, his people, blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians, favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. That's how it's talking about this event here. Because when we left out of the land, they were giving us things just to get us out of the land. But the Lord wanted it that way. So that's how, this goes with this Genesis 13 to 15. All right. Okay. So let's get the next verse. Okay. We want to go over to Exodus 20 and 1. The book of Exodus, chapter 21. So, Lockie, I tell you what, it actually feels good to turn the pages in the Bible. It might take a little longer, but there's something about turning the pages on the Bible. There's something about it. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Okay. Here we go. The book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 1. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And again, this is the Lord saying, he is the Most High. He is the only God that brought us out of the land of Egypt. And remember, and it says, but out of the house of bondage. That's why, remember, Egypt is synonymous with bondage. So when they speak of Egypt and they say bondage, they're talking about Egypt, depending on the context, but it could be talking about Egypt. Okay? Because that's the place we were in bondage. All right? And again, from the top, Exodus 20 and 1. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Okay, so there you go. That's another one that coincides with that. It says that we were in bondage to the Egyptians, to the Africans, and it's like a slap in the face. It's like a disgrace to call yourself an African, knowing that these people have done these atrocious things to us as a nation. You know what I mean? Even today, I'm pretty sure if you have had any experiences with an African before, at least my personal experiences, and I've talked to a few brothers and sisters, and they told me this. So they hate us. Africans hate blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, and they know that they're not the same people as you. There's nothing about them that anybody should look at and think that we are the same people. The only thing they can go off is the fact that they have dark skin just like we do. But their whole mannerisms, their head shape, their spirit on them, it's just a whole different ballgame. They're nothing like the children of Israel. They're nothing like us. They don't have our spirit. You know what I mean? The way we do things, the way we talk, the way we walk, the way we speak. We're a whole different people. We're different than everybody on this planet. And that's because we're the Lord's people. All right? So, and again, like I said, the Lord brought us out of Egypt. All All right, and that was our bondage. That was a bondage. The Africans had, the Hamites had us in bondage. A long time ago, even before the so-called white man today, the Hamites had us in bondage. Okay, and again, this comes from not keeping the law, statutes, and commands. And no matter what is taught here in the Pittsburgh class, the number one thing you should always remember is that what's happening to us as a nation is because we're not keeping the law, statutes, and commands. That's the biggest issue, because nothing can happen to us if we keep the law, statutes, and commands. We'll have the Most High's protection. I mean, you're going to go through trials and tribulations and whatnot, but nobody can F with us if we're keeping God's rules, laws, and commands, because the Most High is a just God, and He loves us, and He just wants us to listen to Him and keep His laws. It's that simple. And again, His laws are not grievous. His laws are not hard to keep. And again, I like to, when I say these things, I like to pull them up, because I want you to see that it's not my words. These are in the scriptures. Okay? Let me see. Okay. So like it 1 minute. Here you go. 1 John 5:3. I should have got that a little faster. I should know this. 1 John 5:3. For this is the love of God. Okay, this is how you know you love God, right? That we keep His commandments. You love God by doing what He says. It's like your father. If you have a father, you live with your father, your mother. You can say you love them and this and that, but you love them, you show them you love them by listening to them and following their instructions, just like the Most High. For this is the love of God, that we keep His commandments, and His commandments are not grievous. So it's not hard. It's not hard to keep the law, statutes, and commands. It's not. I know a lot of us have been in the world and we've been doing things for so long that it might seem like, we can't change, or we can't, keep His laws or whatnot. But like even in the UPK, and in my short time in the UPK, a lot of brothers, they tell me, and I listen to the stories and whatnot. And, brothers, they had, some interesting lives before they came into the truth. And some of them were the worst, type of people that walk the planet, but they did a complete change because they got in the Ashukake under Commander General Yohana, and they followed Yahushua and followed the Most High. You get in the Ashukake, you're following Yahushua, because Commander General Yohana is following Yahushua. Okay, you following Yahushua, you're following the Most High, and that's the rank goes, and that's how you know we're all on one accord. Because the Ashukake is the only nation that actually does what the scripture says and follows the Most High. The only organization, okay? The only nation. And so again, for this is the love of God. 1 John 5:3. For this is the love of God, that we keep His commandments, and His commandments are not grievous. They're not hard to do, black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man, black woman, Native Indian woman, Hispanic woman. They're not hard to do. It can be done. You can stop getting shape ups, I know you think it looks great, and you got a nice neat line going across your head. I know you like to have sex with every woman you see, black man, Hispanic man, you know what I mean, Native Indian man. But guess what? You can there's other things, there's good women out there besides whores, you know what I mean? I know some of you think that you can't stop eating swine and pork. But guess what? I don't really understand, I think that, I haven't ate pork and, even before I came into the truth, it's been a long time, but there's beef, there's turkey, there's a lot of different, there's other things you can eat. There's lamb, it's not, you don't have to eat pork. Okay. It's not hard to forgive your brother. It's not. And you may think it is, but just think about the things that you ask the Most High. You ask for forgiveness, don't you? You want the Most High to forgive you for your wrongdoings. So you need to think about that when it comes time to forgive your brother or your sister. So again, one more time from the top. That was Exodus 20:1. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Our God, the Most High Yahweh, He is the one who brought us out of the land of Egypt, under under the dictatorship of these stinking Hamites, these Africans, So that's basically what that's saying here. Okay. And again, in 1 John 5:3, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. So keep his law, statutes, and commands. I mean, we won't, there won't be any, bondage or slavery or no heathens in your neighborhood selling you all the things that you need for your household and ruling over you. And, your landlords being heathens, you got to pay rent to them. They have the power to shut your damn water off and, cut your lights off and whatnot. I mean, that's hell, man. I mean, and they're not going to give you any grace period. I mean, if they can help it, the minute you 1 minute late, they ready to flick the switch on you. You know what I mean? Or, you an hour late on your car payment, they ready to come get that. I mean, but like I said, the so-called oppressor has to go. His kingdom has to go. Christ's kingdom needs to come. And we get that here by obeying the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High. So that's what we need to focus on as a nation. All right. Okay, let's go to let's see here. Okay. Now again, we're talking about slavery here, right? Okay, the book of Leviticus, chapter 26 and 17. And I will set my face against you. This is the Most High. 26 and 17. And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and ye shall flee when none pursueth you. Okay? Listen here. The Most High, you don't ever want the Most High to set his face against you, because that's open season for your enemies. Once the Lord turns his back to you or doesn't, have you in his protection, that's bad for you, black man, Hispanic man, Asian man. I mean, do I have to tell you? I mean, if you've been living in America, you know anything about your history and things that's happened to our people, you can tell that the Most High has turned his face against us at times. And it's been bad for us. I mean, even today, it's relevant. Slocky with, here in Pittsburgh, young brother Antoine Rose Jr., shot running away from the police. You got George Floyd, in the Minnesota incident, that devil Derek Chauvin, put his neck on him, and suffocated him, and took his life before the world could see. And ye shall be slain before your enemies. I mean, this is clear as day. It's clear. And like I said, this is because we don't have the Most High's protection. We're not keeping his laws. 1 John 5:3. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments. And his commandments are not grievous. You don't want the Lord to set his face against you. You don't want that. We don't want that. You don't want to be slain before your enemies. They that hate you. Listen, this is coming from this isn't some fake book here. This is the real deal here. This is the Bible, okay? King James Version Bible. This is my words. This is in the Bible. So if you've never seen this, it's in here. It's in the Bible. And ye shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you. They that hate you. I mean, the Bible's clearly telling you who it is and what's happening. They that hate you, the so-called oppressors, the heathen nations, reign over us. I mean, look in your neighborhoods. Are you the landlord? Do you own anything? Who do you pay your rent to? Will your job fire you if you miss a half a day? I mean, you don't rule anything. You don't reign over anything. You may think that, we like to think that we do. That's just like some of the arrogance that we have, but we ain't running nothing. We ain't ruling anything. The oppressor is ruling right now. This is his kingdom. And he's saying that they that hate you, these people hate us. It's evident. Look what the police are doing to us. Look at the the structure of this, this empire. Look at the unemployment rates, the economic ladder. I mean, we're at the bottom of everything. We can't compete economically with no one. And this is for a reason. It's because these people are ruling because we won't obey the Most High. It's just that simple. They that hate you shall reign over you, and ye shall flee when none pursueth you. All right? That's how bad it is here. Even when no one's chasing us or coming after us, we're still running. That's how bad it is. And that comes in black man, that comes from not keeping the law, statutes, and commands. It's clear as day. The Bible is clearly telling you who it's talking to and what it's talking about. All right. I want to get some more scriptures, but I want to share some of these. Since we're talking about slavery, this is one of this book here, and this is on you can see this. I'm not going to some light there. I know it's a little light there, but okay, might be a little bit too much like Salakia, but maybe I can pull it back a little bit. I don't know. Salakia about that, but I'll just read the title of the book to you. It's called History of Slavery. It's by Suzanne Everett. Okay, there's a couple things in here that I like want to share with you. Okay, so like this is the first one, page 46. It's called Stowing Human Cargoes. Okay, well, you know what, Salakia, I'm gonna come back to this once I get to a certain verse because I want to dig the perfect verse for that. Okay, so let's go to, actually it might be the next verse, Deuteronomy 28 and 48. Okay, 28 and 48. Deuteronomy 28 and 48. Everything in me wants to grab my phone, and I'm not going to do it. I want to stick with the Bible. I'm going to flip the pages. Even though it's so much quicker, I'm going to get it right here. Deuteronomy 28, 48. I'll be almost there, Salakia. Okay. Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 48. Okay, here we go. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee. See? Our enemies, of course, are the other nations, the heathen nations. You got the Edomites, you got the Ammonites, with the Japanese, the Moabites, the Chinese, the East Indians, like them, Persians and whatnot. So therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee. So that's telling you right here, because we're not keeping the law, statutes, and commands. The Lord sent these people at us, and now we're serving them. In hunger, you know what hunger is, and in thirst, okay, and in nakedness, and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Okay, now, like I said, I don't know why this glare is just real bad in the room right now, but you can see, if you can see on this book here, you can see that, that on their necks they have like a bracket or a bracelet, whatever, and there's a yoke of iron. You know what I mean? Like this is talking about slavery. This is what it's talking about. Okay, again from the top, 28:48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. And I know a lot of you are probably wondering, well, in the world that, how this happened. It happened because, when we were established in our land and, and supposed to be serving the Most High and righteousness and truth, and you know what I mean? We got away from serving the Most High. We started doing the things of the nations round about us. It's just like us black people. It's just like, I don't know I don't know what it is that we feel as though what we have and what the Most High gave us is not enough. It's like we always gotta see what everybody else is doing and want to take on their practices. We want to be like everybody else. And I know it comes with just even being born in America. And this slavery and this bondage, this captivity, it's a trait that we picked up. But when you really look at the scheme of things, we're the best people. I mean, who's better than us in anything? I mean, we're the best. We're the best at everything. I mean, and I'm not, it's just clear, it's evident. Everyone knows it, but we're just destroyed because we won't obey our God, and he's going to punish you. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. I mean, if that ain't a black person's life, I don't know what is. I mean, I'm almost certain a very high percentage of us grew up in the projects, poverty, wishing that we had certain things. I just remember being younger in my early teens and just wishing like, I had a certain amount of money, wishing I, had that certain vehicle, or, wishing I had that certain outfit, or, what I mean? It's like you just could never get over the hump when you were younger. It was just, even now, I mean, there's still times now when, we go through these things. And but of course, at that point, I didn't have any idea what was really going on in the world. I don't, maybe I was just down on my luck, but no, I had no idea that my ancestors were the ones that like crucified Christ. You understand? Like the same people who were, taken in the Middle Passage, the transatlantic slave trade, are the people who, disobeyed the Most High and harmed their own prophets. You understand? Then it makes sense. Then when you start to know these things, you're like, okay, I see how we got to America. I see why we're in the conditions that we're in. And it's because we don't want to keep God's laws, statutes, and commands. We continue to disobey them. How do we continue to do it today? You still want to eat pork. You can't put the weed down. You want to celebrate 4th of July, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, New Year's. And then you want to wonder why these things are still happening to you. You want to smoke cigarettes. You want to hate your brother. We want to go and murder and our own brothers and sisters. Black man, you want to leave the black woman and keep you want to have sex with whores. Black woman, you want to slide out on your husband, or the manager with your husband. Of course we know sex is marriage. And you want to go mess with multiple men. So the Most High is going to punish us for all these things, and it's a just punishment, because according to the scriptures, and the scriptures are true, you go against anything that's in this book, what happens to you happens to you. Again, 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. That's why I said that I showed you the book. The bracelet or bracket, that on their neck, they're walking, chained up. I mean, this is in the Bible. This is before that happened. This was in the Bible. That's how the Bible is alive. It's the truth, because it was talking about it before it even happened. Even to this day, things are still happening. There's it's unfolding right in front of us. It was written thousands of years ago. All right. Okay, let's go to the next one. 28 and 64. Let's see what we got here. All right. Okay. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 64. Salaki. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. Now we know that scatter something means it's like to spread widely. And we went over that weeks ago. So the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. That's how you know that the Israelites dwell among all people. And this is something that we learned here in the UPK too. You go to James 1:1, I believe it is. Because like I said, again, we like to prove all things in these scriptures. Here we go. The book of James, chapter 1, verse 1. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. See? And we go back to Deuteronomy 28:64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. That's how you know Black, Hispanics, and Native Indian people are all over the world. We're in the UK, we're in America, we're in Europe, Asia, we're everywhere. You know what I mean? And we're all over the, in the corners of the globe. You know what I mean? And guess what? No matter where you're at, you're still suffering these curses. It don't matter where you go. You want to run to Africa, you want to put on a dashiki and you want to worship Allah, whatever it is you want to do, guess what? These curses are still following you. If you're not keeping the law, statutes, and commands, this is for you. Okay. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods. Black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man. This is your Christian church. These are gods or things that are not your ancestors were not familiar to. You want to get in Islam. You want to worship the God of the Arabs. The desert, desert and fly written Arabs. Allah or whatever. That's what I'm saying. So you want to go, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So wood would be that Christian cross that everybody likes to have on their wall. I remember coming up as a kid, and of course in grandmother's house, they definitely had that symbol up in grandma's house. So every grandma probably had that. You got the wooden cross, you got white Jesus, who is Cesar Borgia, you know what I mean, on the wall. I remember seeing these things when I was young, thinking like, wow, this is interesting. That's God. You know what I mean? As a little kid, you just imagine what that does to your mentality. Like you look at yourself, you realize, you don't look like that. You know what I mean? But this is in your house. And then you go outside and these people are your teachers. They got all the prominent jobs. They live in the better homes. And then you look at where you live at in the damn ghetto, where rats and roaches, starving, you barely got food to eat, and then you see that image, you say, well, no wonder why these people, that's God, right? This is what God looks like, and they look like him, so I guess I'm nothing. But this is what it teaches you. Of course, we know in the truth that that's false, that's a damn lie, but growing up seeing these things, this is what a child might think. You don't understand the damage that does, having that image in your house, the Christian cross, pictures of white Jesus, blonde hair, blue eyes. It's amazing that we still can understand that, you don't, when they show you pictures of these false gods, you're like we're the only people that don't have a God that look like us, according to, America. Everybody else, every other nation, they have, their false gods and they look like them. But you accept white Jesus. We accept white Jesus. I mean, of course, in the UPK we don't, but I'm just speaking in general in the world, how the type of things that we experience as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. All right, so let's get that again. What was that? Okay, 28:64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even to the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And of course, that stone. What are we talking about here? That Kaaba stone that the Muslims like to worship, that they circle around 7 times and kiss it and try to get it pregnant. That's what that's talking about. And let's get something here with that too, so you can see that the scriptures is talking about that. Let's see what the scriptures calls this stone that brothers and sisters like to worship in Islam. Okay, the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 19. Woe means like destruction. Okay, this is saying this is destruction. Listen, woe unto him that saith to the wood, awake. The wood, of course, is the Christian cross. If you're buying into that Christian religion, Christianity, and you think that symbolizes God, woe to you. Destruction is coming to you, black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man, if you believe in that damn Christian cross. Woe unto him that saith to the wood, awake. To the dumb stone, arise. It shall teach. Again, to the dumb stone. The book of Deuteronomy 28:64. Which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So the scriptures are clearly telling you that the Christian cross, the cobblestone of the Arabs, these are, idols. These are things that, men worship, that they have, created for you to worship, or put out there for you to worship. But it's not of the Most High. And he called that stone a dumb stone. That's in the Bible. That's the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 19. You can look it up for yourself. All right. So these things are not of the Most High, and they are not of us. blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, the children of Israel. These are not these are not our customs. We serve the Most High Yahweh. Okay, that's the only God we serve. And that is the only God. All right. So let's get 28 and 68. Okay, now we're getting into where a little more what I was trying to pull out with the book. Okay, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Remember that word Egypt. So not bondage. So when you see that, in this context, when you see that word Egypt, think bondage. Okay, here we go. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Now, of course, I mean, unless you just refuse to pay attention, or you just, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you have heard at some point in time that your ancestors were brought into America on cargo ships. Here you go. This is a picture of that right here. I hope you can see it, even though this light is killing me. But you can see the little ships there. I know you can't see it that great, but you can see the outline of it. But our people were brought into America. Black people were brought into America on cargo ships. I'm gonna read a little something from this book, so you can see, kind of see what it's like. Okay, what it was like. What they had to go through. And we'll get into this first. Okay. All right. Of all the details of the slave trade that appalled anti-slavers, the most immediate, because the easiest to visualize, were those of the human cargoes were stowed. Okay, talking about, being us on these ships, like cargo. The arrangements were made widely known in drawings like those reproduced here and by the evidence of slavers themselves. This account of loading newly captured slaves is taken from a recently discovered manuscript by Theophilus Kanu. One version of his memoirs was published in 1854. It was heavily rewritten and was generally considered of doubtful authenticity. Now, the original manuscript has been discovered and published by Howard S. Mott. Kanu was born in Italy, went to sea, and ended up in Boston. His memoirs describe his adventures as a slaver between 1829 and 1847, when the trade was illegal. Okay, here we go. They're giving you they're painting a picture of what actually is going on here. Two of the officers had the charge of stowing them. At sundown, the second mate and boatswain descend, cat in hand, and stow the Negroes for the night. Those on the starboard side face forward and in one another's lap. Vulgarly called spoon fashion. Okay, this is what they're laying like that's what you get that term spooning from. Called spoon fashion. On the port side, they are stowed with face aft. This position is considered preferable for the free pulsation of the heart. The tallest are selected for the greatest breadth of the vessel, while the short sides and youngsters are stowed in the fore part of the ship. Great precaution is also taken to place those such as may have sores or boils on the side most convenient for their distemper. Tubs are also distributed on the sleeping deck and so placed that both sides have access. The sick are never placed below. Okay. This lower deck, once full, the rest are stowed on the deck, which is prepared with loose boards to keep the water from under them. They are then covered in fair weather with spare sails and with tarpaulins in rainy nights. In this manner, they are made to remain all night, if possible. This discipline of stowing them is of the greatest importance on board slavers. Otherwise, every Negro would accommodate himself with all the comfortability of a cabin passenger. So they're forced to be, put in these positions, okay? Billets of wood are sometimes distributed to them, but as slaves shipped are often of different nations, this luxury is not granted till well assured of the good disposition of the Negroes. As on many occasions, slaves have been tempted to mutiny only by the opportunity at hand of arming themselves with those native pillows. Mutiny is like an uprising against officers and whatnot. They're angry and they're trying to get out of this situation, so they're going to do an uprising. Indeed, a very destructive missile in case of revolt. As it may appear barbarous that slaves should be made to lie down naked on a hard board, let me inform the reader that native Africans know not the use of mattresses. Therefore, slaves cannot find great inconvenience in laying down on hard words. You see the type of things that the white man will lie about or say, to try to justify what they're doing. They really say here, as it may appear barbarous that slaves should be made to lie down naked on a hard board, let me inform the reader that native Africans know not the use of mattresses. They're basically saying you're an animal and you don't even know what it's like to sleep on a mattress. So this ain't really that bad for you because you're used to these type of things. This is how they think about you and feel about you. They got you, laying down in spoon fashion, planking, and, on top of each other. And imagine the horrors of this, brothers is getting sick, vomiting on each other. They have like they're covered, their groin is covered with like a thin, like cloth. I mean, it's just unsanitary. You know what I mean? A lot of brothers, would die, well before they even made it to, their destination. And that's in here too. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, I want to read something real important here because I want you, because they always say that Africans are sold into slavery but what they really is doing is they're just trying to lump us all into one people, and it's not true because we were sold into slavery, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Okay, so listen to this: a singular view of the Middle Passage. One of the most extraordinary documents of the great era of slavery is that by a tribal chieftain named Zamba. Okay, this is talking about an African chief. Okay, Zamba was a son of a local king who ruled a small community 200 miles up the Congo. The king Zambola acquired considerable wealth as a slave dealer. You hear that? A slave dealer. This is an African. That's telling you right there that the Africans had their hand in slavery and they were selling you to the oppressor. All right. The king Zambola acquired considerable wealth as a slave dealer, selling to an American captain named Winton. Okay, so Africans were selling our people into slavery. Africans didn't go into slavery. We're just talking about blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. We were being sold into slavery. Okay. All right. We're going to read a little bit about this. Well, it's like I'm going to come back to that. We'll come back to that a little later. We'll get to the next scripture. So again, don't ever get us confused with Africans because we're not Africans. Africans do not have our best interests. They hate us just like any other heathen. And they are not our people. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 29, verse 28. Okay. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 29, verse 28. And the Lord rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land as it is this day. Again, 29, 28. And the Lord rooted them out of their land in anger. The Lord did this to you. And in wrath and in great indignation. Let's see what this word indignation means. I mean, pretty sure you got a rough idea what it means, but let's get the actual definition of what indignation is, so you can see, what the Lord was feeling here. I want the exact definition. Okay, anger aroused by something unjust. That's you, black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man. You made the Lord angry by not keeping his law, statutes, and commands, by taking on the practices of the heathens and not doing what he's telling what you should do. And in great indignation, and cast them into another land as it is this day. You are not in Israel. You're not in your homeland. You're in blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are all over the world and other parts of the world, which is not their land. And it's because you angered the Lord. It's right here in the scriptures. It's not me making it up. This is in the Bible. This is in your King James Version Bible. The same one that you have in your Christian church, but of course they won't read these things to you. But they will pass out that collection plate 30 times. They will do that. And you will your red will make a plate for pastor. You know what I mean? And he will have new alligator shoes on, and he'll probably be driving around in a Bentley. But that's a whole other story. Again, and the Lord rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land as it is this day. Okay? All right. Get the next scripture here. Salakia. There, 13. Okay. Almost there, Slocky. Okay. Slocky, 1 second, Israel. Okay, let's go with the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 24. Okay, all right. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, and the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Okay, again, from the top, Luke 21, 24. And they, the they is, of course, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, shall fall by the edge of the sword. And we know the sword is, what's happening today is death. You understand? It's punishment. All right? And shall be led away captive into all nations. Blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians, were sold into slavery. We were captives to many nations, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the white man today, the Hamites at one time. We've been slaves, the Greeks. We've been, who is the white man, Romans and whatnot. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem, that's our homeland, shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. That's like today, Gentiles are in our land. That's not our land right now. The Gentiles are there, and it's being trodden down, by these heathen nations. All right, so that's what that's talking about. So, who else could this be speaking about? And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive. I mean, we historically we know they can only be talking about one people. Like I said, we read in this book, blacks, Hispanic, blacks wanted to slavery. We were led away captive. We were taken out of our land. You know what I mean, and brought to different parts of the world. And made to serve, slavery. And even back in, the ancient times, we were in service to the Egyptians, the Hamites. So of course, this is talking about us. All right, let me see. Let's go to the next verse. Get back into the Bible. All right. Okay. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 12, verse 7. I have forsaken my house. All right. I have left mine heritage. I have given the dearly beloved of my soul into the hand of her enemies. Look how the Most High speaks of his people. I have forsaken mine house. Because this is you're his house. I have left mine heritage. Okay. I have given the dearly beloved. As he's talking about you, blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians. Look how the Lord, talks about his people. The dearly beloved of my soul. I mean, you are the beloved of your God. He loves you. But like a father should do, which is just and was righteous, if you're not obeying his rules and his laws, you got to be punished for that. And the Most High has the power to do that. Who's to say that the Most High can't do what he wants to do? I have forsaken my house. I have left mine heritage. I have given the dearly beloved of my soul into the hand of her enemies. Okay. Again, it's clear about that we have enemies. And I think we know who our enemies are. You have the so-called, Edomite, so-called white man who rules over us with an iron, rod. Like, he's just a wicked, what I mean? He has no mercy on us. It doesn't matter if you're, an old man to the young kid. He has no mercy on you. All right. And the reason why this is happening, again, because we won't keep the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High. It's just that simple. So that's why the Lord says, I have forsaken my house. I have left mine heritage. He turned his back to you. He turned his face from you. He put his back to you, turn his face to you. He turned his face from you because you won't do what he said. The Lord is a very merciful God. And that's one of his greatest attributes is his long suffering. And again, like we always say, let's prove all things. Numbers chapter 14, verse 18. The Lord is long suffering and of great mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression, and by no means clearing the guilty. See that? Again, Numbers 14 and 18. The Lord is long suffering and of great mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression, and by no means clearing the guilty. See, the Lord is long suffering. He will, let you, keep making mistake after mistake after mistake. Not keeping his law, statutes, and commands, and because he loves you, he gives you a grace period. He forgives you for being a wicked bastard. Salakia. But then there comes a time, you know what? Like any father, all right, I can't continue to keep turning my face to your wickedness, and for you to not listen to what I'm telling you to do. So here comes that punishment. You might not want to do it, just like when you punish your own children. It might hurt you to, to, want to, put hands on one of your children, you give them a spanking or, punish them or whatever. They can't go to that party or whatever it is. But you got to do it to get the right results. And that's what the Most High does to us. To get the right results out of us, he has to punish us. But again, the Lord is long suffering, man. And he has great mercy. You know what I mean? He will forgive you. But you can't play with the Most High, man. You can't play with him. You got to do what he wants you to do. Period. There's no way around. There's no other way around it. You can't keep making excuses. You can't be saying you're going to get in the truth eventually, but get in the truth now. We're at that time where we need to be in the truth. We need to, get in the ISHPK and the Commander Junior Hana, learn the truth, learn how to serve the Most High the right way. Don't go to the fake Israelite groups. Don't go to the Muslim mosques. You definitely don't want to. You don't even think about going to the Christian church. And I'm pretty sure you know these things already, but you need to be reminded. You know what I mean? Get in this truth. All right. Okay. What was that again? We were at Luke 21 and 24, was it? Jeremiah. I'm sorry. Salakia. Jeremiah 12 and 7. I have forsaken my house. I have left mine heritage. I have given the dearly beloved of my soul into the hand of her enemies. So, black man, Hispanic man, while you walking around here destroyed, in misery, thinking, nobody loves you, nobody has your back. But guess what? Look what the Lord says about you. I have given the dearly beloved of my soul. That's how the Lord feels about you, black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man. You're beloved by the Lord. So just imagine what he'll do for you if you actually keep his commands, his law, statutes, and commands. Just imagine how well it will go for you. You don't need anybody else to do anything for you, if you got the Most High on your side. You know what I mean? That's what you need to be worried about. Forget about that whore or that our sisters. Forget about that brother who don't want to do right. Get your love from the Most High, and then everything will fall into place after that. All right. Let's go to the next scripture. Let's see what we get here. Okay. And we're of course we were talking about slavery and whatnot, but we're talking about why you went into slavery and why the Lord has turned his back towards us. Turned his face from us because of our sins, because we won't keep his law, statutes, and commands. And he just repeated over and over again, you were deserving of it because we're not keeping his laws. All right, the book of Jeremiah, chapter 15, verse 1. Then said the Lord unto me, thou Moses, and Samuel stood before me. Yet my mind could not be toward this people. Cast them out of my sight and let them go forth. Now that's how when you're not keeping the law, statutes, and commands, that's how the Lord feels. Get out of my sight. That's just like, if you have a child or your brothers, you got a woman, who did something to really piss you off, something that's like, or women, you got a man, you know what I mean, and he might have pissed you off, these are things that happen in the world, or just period, you can't get out of my sight, man. I don't want to talk to you. Get away from me. But just imagine like some of the things we have done though. We have worshipped other gods. We're smoking weed. We want to eat pork. We hate each other, our own brothers and sisters. We doing some wicked things to each other, and the Most High is like, look, man, I just sent the prophets to you. These scriptures are right here. It's clearly telling you what you need to do and how you need to live. But guess what? You don't want to keep these laws. All right, man, get away from me. Get away from me. I'm gonna bring this judgment on you now. You understand? And it's just. The Lord is a just God. And, again, get that. I'll get that for you. It don't take much to know that. Okay. Genesis 18 and 19. For I know him, that he will command his children in his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that with Salakia. That's the one verse. Salakia. Salakia. Okay, here we go. Salakia. Deuteronomy 32 and 4. He is the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are judgment, a God of truth and without iniquity. Just and right is he. So when the Lord brings that judgment down on you, it's just. It's right. He may have mercy for you. He may give you a grace period. And a lot of you believe because of the Christian church, you're being taught that the laws are done away with. Because Christ died on the cross for Blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians. But of course, they teach you for the whole world. But you think that because Christ died on the cross, they're teaching you that the laws are done away with. That you don't actually have to keep the laws. You know what I mean? But and because Christ died, he gave you a grace period. No, by you not keeping the laws, it's like you're spitting on Christ. You know what I mean? You like I said, you re-kill Christ. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like, listen, You have to keep the law, statutes, and commands. I know we've learned in the Christian church, in the world, and they're pastors are teaching you that, just, you pass out the collection plate, 3 or 4 times, just, believe in Jesus and everything's all good. But no, you got to keep the law, statutes, and commands. Christ didn't die, you know what I mean? So you can continue to sin. All right. So you get, like Christ died, you get to live in his place. So you got to keep the law, statutes, and commands. And he was perfect before the Lord. He didn't sin. So that's proof that you can do it. All right. Because he came like, just like you, black man, Hispanic man, Native man, he came as flesh. He lived as a man. He was tempted just like all of us are, but he didn't sin. He kept the law, statutes, and commands. So therefore, so can you. And again, Deuteronomy 32:4, he is the rock. His work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment, a God of truth and without iniquity. Just and right is he. Okay. All right. I want to so let me look at left here. Let's see. Jeremiah. Okay, here goes some more. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. You see that, black man, Hispanic man, Native man? This is why you don't know that you're an Israelite in the world. You don't have none of the, no connection to nothing that, who you were, what your ancestors were. You don't know you're an Israelite. You call yourself African American, black. You don't speak you don't speak Hebrew. You're in a land, you're in America, instead of being born in Israel or Jerusalem. You know what I mean? And you discontinue from your heritage. This is why you want to go get tattoos and, get shape ups, like, which is something that's an Egyptian practice, to shape up the lineup and stuff. If you don't know, that's an Egyptian practice. Brothers want to get dreads and worship the god Shiva, you know what I mean? Which is, another heathen practice. This is not keeping our heritage or, continuing our heritage. We're keeping other heathens' heritage, you know what I mean? And it's not for us, and it angers God. And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies. There it is again. I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. You pissed the Most High off. We have pissed the Most High off. You have angered the Most High. So that's why you're serving your enemies. And this is why you discontinue from your heritage. This is why most of us don't know that we're Israelites. And we're just called whatever, new name the white man names us, or whatever, you were called, and then, being called African American was, something that, like, Jesse Jackson, Sharpton and them, named us during the Civil Rights Movement, which is 2 white people, Leo Scipius Africanus and Amerigo Vespucci. That's where African American comes from. So this is why these things are happening, black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man, because we won't keep God's laws, statutes, and commands. There's no other way around it. We got to do what the Most High says. He's our Father, and we have to do what He wants us to do. All right. Let's see if we get maybe a few more. Let me see. Where's the phone for this one? Slocky. Okay. The book of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 12. And he hath confirmed his words, that's the Most High, which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us great evil. Again, by bringing upon us great evil. For under the whole heaven have not been done as it have been done upon Jerusalem. So our ancestors, even you today, continue to not, do what the Most High wants us to do. Our leaders have failed us. Just like back then, our leadership failed, the Israelites back then. Just like today, your leaders fail you today. Today, we look at people like T.D. Jakes, Steve Harvey, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, all these, different people so-called wealthy people, basically, who have did nothing to make it, vain for themselves, to get money, but they have destroyed us. They have taught us, opposite of what our heritage is. Like if you go in TD Jakes' church, TD Jakes is okay with having homosexuals in his church, but of course, the Most High, is not with that. In the scriptures, it tells you that a man should not lie down with another man. TD Jakes is a champion for homosexuality. He's all for it. So, Steve Harvey, that clown, he says things in his books about how black men should bow down to women. But of course, we know in the scriptures it tells you that a man is supposed to rule over a woman. A woman does not usurp authority over a man. But these are just examples of like people that you might look up to as leaders, and we listen to what they say, and you don't understand that you're following men and not following the Most High, and that's been detrimental to us. You know what I mean? Because these men have sold their souls to heathens, just to live, luxurious in this kingdom, and they're fooling you to do it. All right. So let's get one more thing on the slavery, and then we're going to close it out basically. Okay, let me see. And again, this book is called The History of Slavery. You can the author is Suzanne Everett. It's a good book too. There's a lot of information in it. Okay. Okay. This is telling you about of course, painting a picture of what it was like during the Middle Passage or the transatlantic slave trade, and what our brothers, and sisters and stuff was going through. Okay. So let's look at this here. This is on page 50. And this section is a singular view of the Middle Passage. After many tears and lamentations on both sides, an assurance on my part that after visiting America and England, I should return with Captain Winton, bringing home as much property as would make me the richest king on the banks of the Congo, I bade to Africa. Little did I then think that I should no more see dear Africa forever. But when I reflect upon the way in which a merciful providence has acted towards me, I feel my heart swell with gratitude and love. Out of seeming evil, how much good had fallen to my lot is not to be reckoned. The Almighty has since repaid me with that inestimable treasure which is from heaven, which will never perish, nor rust, nor fade away. So this is some, I think it's a stinking African who basically is, sold our people into slavery, and he's, talking about how, he's blessed because he's getting all these riches and stuff, from the white man because he sold us into slavery. But I'm just going to go a little more into, to details about this too. Captain Winton accommodated me with a handsome state room, and we left the Congo on the first day of October 1800. I found that, including my own 32, there were in all 422 slaves on board, but as the vessel was 500 tons burden, they were not so crowded for space as I've since learned has often been the case with immigrants from Europe to America. Their accommodation, however, was very miserable. The ship's lower deck was divided fore and aft into compartments of about 6 feet square by planks raised about 6 inches. And into each of these divisions, 4 slaves were put to lie down or sit, or to take as they chose. The planks were intended to keep them from rolling when the sea was rough. Of course, they had nothing but the hard deck to lie upon. In regard to clothing, they were very scantily supplied. In general, both male and female had 1.5 yards or 2 yards of osnaburgs wrapped around their loins, just like a cloth. And some of them had a piece of cloth or a handkerchief bound round their heads. The males were all linked 2 and 2 by a small chain around the ankle. As for provision, they were much better off than in the generality of slave ships. And this, strange as it may appear, they owed to the avarice rather than the humanity of the captain. The motives of the latter, however, were of little moment to the poor slaves. provided the end was of their advantage. The end was for their advantage. The slaves were supplied for breakfast with a fair ration of ground Indian corn boiled, with a spoonful of molasses to each. They generally had boiled rice for dinner, and supper was the same as breakfast. Sometimes for dinner, they received each about a half pound of ship biscuit with a little morsel of beef or pork. They go that damn pork, Salakia. You know they got to give you that. You know they're going to give you that pork, black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man. Too much of this latter would, no doubt, have created thirst. So they ain't give you too much because they ain't want you to be thirsty because they weren't trying to give you the damn water. Although this captain, as will be shown in the sequel of my narrative, acted in a most dishonorable and treacherous manner towards me and was totally devoid of all Christian principles. See, there they go like that Christianity again. You know, they saying, you know, because they're Christians, they're supposed to carry themselves in a certain way, which is a damn lie because we know Christians are the biggest hypocrites. They don't actually do anything that the Most High says. Yet, to serve his own ends in the matter of the slaves, he acted the part of a humane and considerate man. This is some stinking African, you know, kissing the white man's, you know what. He told me on the course of our voyage that in the early part of his experience in the slave trade, he had seen as many slaves as had with him at present shipped on board a vessel of 200 tons, where they were literally packed on the top of each other, and consequently from ill air, confinement, and scanty or unwholesome provision. Disease was generated to such an extent that in several cases he had known only half survived to the end of the voyage. So there were so many diseases that was going on that only half of them would survive anyway, if they were lucky. And these, as he termed it, in a very unmarketable condition. So the ones that did survive, they weren't even healthy. He found, therefore, that by allowing them what he had called sufficient room and good provisions with kind treatment, his speculations turned out much better in regard to the amount of dollars received. And that was all he cared for. He don't care about them, you know, surviving or living. All that white man cared about is the money. He just wanted to make them, he wanted to make sure they made it there so he can get his damn money. For the first few days, the most of us, I mean the blacks, were laid down with seasickness. But the weather being fine, that was soon got over. The captain caused the hatches to be kept open night and day, except only upon 2 occasions. During the whole voyage and after daylight set, and he allowed about 1/4 of his cargo to come on deck for 2 hours by rotation. He had always 4 of his men with loaded muskets and fixed bayonets, day and night on the deck. But during this trip, there never was the slightest attempt at rioting or mutiny. The only misfortune that befell us was this. After being about 15 days out to sea, one evening about sunset, the ship, with all sail set, going down the trades at the rate of 5 knots an hour, and the clap of a hand, or at least one more suddenly than a stranger to these latitudes could imagine, a heavy squall struck the ship, carrying away a great part of the loftier spares and sails, and laying her very nearly on her beam ends. In a few minutes, a tremendous sea rose, and although the squall blew over in about a quarter of an hour, and the ship regained her position, the poor slaves below, altogether unprepared for such an occurrence, were mostly thrown on the lee side, where they lay heaped on top of each other. Their fetters rendered many of them helpless, and before they could be arranged in their proper places and relieved from their pressure on each other, it was found that 15 of them were smothered or crushed to death, besides a great number who were cruelly bruised. The captain seemed considerably vexed, but the only, or at least the chief, grievous to him was the sudden loss of some $5,000 or $6,000. So we're gonna wrap it up there. So when the ship had some trouble at sea, you know, the brothers underneath the, you know, in the lower deck were thrown around and ended up following each other. I mean, just imagine like the smaller people, and you got bigger guys or whatnot, and they land on top of, you know, the smaller ones, or just even if they didn't have to be little, but small. But just imagine somebody just land on top of you for a long period of time, and then, you know, you get smothered or you just get bruised or injured real bad, or and this was how they were dying. And all this damn devil could think about was this $5,000 or $6,000. But that's why, you know, the oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks about. And this is why blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, we have to get back to following the Most High's rules, laws, and commands. And with that, I'm going to close the class up. And again, this is the ICBK. I'm the Commander, Jordan Yohana. And Shalom, Israel.